So I had a family friend call me the other day and ask me a question that I think a lot of people have this question. A lot of people have asked me in classes that I've taught or just people in my private practice or in my personal life. They've asked the question of, I can't clear my mind. Am I supposed to be clearing my mind when I'm meditating? This family friend in particular called me and said, James, I have so much going on in my mind right now. I have so much going on in my life, and I can't clear my mind. They told me that they went to the beach the other day. They brought a beach chair and they sat down on the beach with the intention of just being there and clearing their mind. But when he was sitting there, his mind was all over the place. And his question for me was, is it too much to expect that when I'm trying to meditate, that my mind will be totally clear, that I won't have any thoughts? And I responded to him, and I'll respond here saying, I've been practicing meditation for about a decade and teaching for about 5 years, and I could write a book on how to answer that question. And I've been recording podcast episodes trying to answer that question. I think this is the 63rd episode. And if you want, you can go back to some of the earlier episodes to maybe get some more clarity, but this episode will kind of strike right to the heart of that question. Is it too much to expect to clear my mind and not have any thoughts during meditation? The short answer, the one where I don't write a whole book to answer it, is yes, that is too much to expect. There may be times when there's a less frequency of thoughts, and that, scientifically speaking, our brainwaves are in a theta state, and there's less frequency of activity in our brain. Yes, sure, that does happen, especially when we're in a meditative state. But in short, the answer is yes, it's too much to expect that you will clear your mind and have no thoughts, especially if you don't have a serious meditation practice. But even if you do, the mind is there to think. The mind is here to think. That is just what the mind does. The mind thinks thoughts. And it's not so much about clearing the mind. It's not so much about not having thoughts as it is about creating space for the thoughts that do exist and not resisting, not being in opposition to the thoughts that do come up. So that was another question he had, is if I'm not clearing my mind, what am I doing in meditation? And I thought of a metaphor. And a lot of people say that the metaphors are helpful, so I figured I'd share it. Do you know, I'm not sure exactly what they're called, but do you know when you're either on a cruise ship? Well, actually, I've never been on a cruise ship, but I believe these might be on cruise ships or on a pier or something. They have these like binocular things. It's like a stand with the top of it kind of looks like a face. There are two holes in it, and you put a quarter in this machine. I believe they're just called binoculars. And then once you put the quarter in, you're able to focus the machine. You're able to move the dial on the top to have a sharper image. So before you put the quarter in, there's either when you look in the binoculars, there's either just a blackness or it's totally blurry. And that's kind of like our thoughts before we have a meditation practice or before we have meditated in a given day. There could be a blurriness or a blackness where we can't really see what is going on. It's unclear. And with meditation, it's kind of like putting the quarter in the machine and tuning the dial so that there's more clarity. But how does that work in meditation practice? What I have found is that if we sit and choose one object to bring our awareness to bring our attention to. So if this person was on the beach, the example I gave is just pay attention to the sun as it's setting if it's nighttime, or as it's rising if it's in the morning. Or just look at the line where the sky meets the water. Just watch the horizon. Bring awareness there with no other intention besides bringing awareness to this one thing. And what happens in a meditative practice when we bring awareness to one thing over and over, and every time the mind wanders, bringing it back to that thing, it's kind of, there's a settling. I use often an example of a glass of water. If there's a glass of water with dirt or mud in it, and we shake the glass up, or a bottle, and we shake the bottle up, it's cloudy because the dirt is all spread apart in the bottle, and it's hard to see through. But if we leave the bottle there still for a moment, for a little while, the dirt will settle to the bottom, and there'll be more clarity through the water at the top. Same thing with if you're on the beach and you're trying to clear your mind. If you bring your mind to the same thing, you bring your awareness to the same object over and over, just the horizon, just the sun, just the feeling of the sand on your feet, just the sound of the waves, then there can be a settling. And that's why this happens for people. That's why I think people find so much serenity in going to the beach, because this kind of stuff happens organically. The sound of the waves is very calming for people because it's a consistent occurrence that our awareness is focused on. Just wave after wave after wave. It's just, we bring the awareness there over and over. And it's happening organically. We're not trying. We're not efforting. We're not exerting effort. And that's sort of the meditative practice. To bring awareness to something without bringing too much effort. And with that, to bring back the binocular example, it is after we bring awareness to something over and over and there is a settling, there's more clarity. And in this clarity, we're able to see the thoughts more clearly. So it's not that we are getting rid of the thoughts, but it is from this meditative space, we're able to now see the thoughts more clearly and not resist them, not be in opposition to them. And now, as soon as we are not in opposition to them, they sort of lose their power a little. I've had a lot of people say to me, if I'm guiding a meditation and I ask them to bring awareness to the breath or the sounds, then they might say something like, my mind was wandering and I couldn't focus on the breath. But then sometimes when I guide them to bring awareness directly to the thoughts, there's a lot of people that say, as soon as you told me to bring awareness to the thoughts, I couldn't find any thoughts. There were no thoughts there, or I couldn't pin one down. So it's like, what is this? And that becomes a wonderful question to explore in meditation practice is, when I bring awareness directly to the thoughts themselves, what happens? But in essence, in short, a meditation practice is not a practice of trying to clear the mind. It is a practice of being here without exerting too much effort. Being here with what is arising. So it's fall here, and I don't know if beach season is over, so maybe you won't be able to practice this at the beach, but maybe you could sit outside of on your front stoop and pay attention to cars, if there are a lot of cars in your area. Like they are waves. Each car that passes. To me, when cars pass, it sounds like waves. And it's just another thing to pay attention to. So the next time you sit in a practice, see if as an experiment you can bring this sentiment with you, that you're not sitting with to clear your mind. That is not the goal of meditation, but that you are bringing awareness to some experience. And when we bring awareness to some experience over and over and over, there can be a settling of dirt in the water bottle, or a focusing of the dial on the binoculars, which brings more clarity. And then from this clear space, we can be in less opposition to our thoughts. And sometimes, when we are in less opposition to the thoughts, there are less thoughts. But not going into it with that as the goal.